Man, that was crazy. All right, my bad, guys. My live stream cut out. I don't know why that happened. But we're back. We're live. And I'm just going to finish it. I'm going to finish it regardless if I lost everybody or not, because that's what a professional would do. So, let's go through my bookmarks.
Because Donald Trump kept shifting who was objectives. Who was?
Donald Trump doesn't know how to play chess. Okay, well, let's see. Let's see what you got.
Donald Trump doesn't know how to play chess. And our allies tonight even told me in meetings that because Donald Trump kept shifting his objectives. Who was it? Because Donald Trump, well, I'll tell you when the president tells us who he's negotiating with.
So you don't, so
when
so
the
you're
president
claiming
keeps
you had
moving our
high-level
objectives-
conversations with other countries tonight?
I talk to people from the region all the time,
The
Scott.
region or with the governments?
Scott, here's the point. Here's the point. The people in that region who are our allies have been very
Yeah, this fool has no idea what he's talking about. And this is just another thing of, this is 24, this is yesterday, this is just another, this is the thing that, that really irritates me about these people, okay? These smug, hypocrite retards don't know anything. And they come on these shows and they talk like they know things. They don't know anything or anyone. They don't have any insider information. This stuff is strictly between Trump and his team and the Iranian guys who are left over who are in charge. The guys who are tweeting and doing all these videos from Iran online are not the people in charge. These are just posturing. They're just posturing. They don't have any weapons. All they can try to do is try to appeal to stupid people like this to try to make them look like they have some kind of control. They don't have any control. They have no leverage. Trump has all the leverage, and he knows that. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows the United States has all the leverage. We've destroyed everything. If you take away everybody's guns and you're the person with all the guns and you got a whole team of people with guns, why would you care if someone starts talking at the mouth when you could just pull the trigger? That's the whole point. NATO isn't helping the United States. It's all us. And and the other thing I asked this on Twitter today. I said, I had a thought. I was thinking, if America does this by themselves and NATO doesn't help, and we end up having to do some strike missions with some boots on the ground, not occupation, but taking Karg Island or capturing Karg Island or capturing strategic parts of the Straits of Hormuz to secure it. If we get Karg Island and we get the Strait of Hormuz, then and we've done it all. Well, we basically control that. The United States would control 20% of the world's oil. 80% goes to China, and 95% to Japan, and I think Europe or England specifically gets a lot of their oil from the Strait of Hormuz. So, if we end up doing all the heavy lifting, and if we end up, carrying out our objectives, does that mean that we get to have our oil? Is that our oil now? Like, it's in Iran, but if we destroy the regime, and is that not ours now? If they don't want to play ball, if we really have to go, pedal to the metal and really wipe them out, and we take it, isn't that ours? Right? Is that how that works? To the victor goes the spoils, right? Because here's what I see happening. There is a definite possibility of America doing some kind of deal, but we're going to come out victorious. We're already victorious. I don't even know what I'm saying. We have already won this thing. We're not. This isn't a. We're not having talks because we're capitulating to some kind of ceasefire. No, we are giving them the terms in which to save face, because the only other option is total obliteration, and they know it. The guys that are tweeting and this propaganda guy saying all the crap, they're saying all that because they're trying to save face so that their people won't rise up and kill them all. But they don't have any guns. They don't have any weapons. They don't have any. They have no other option. Of course, they're trying to make a deal, and you don't think this? Yes, Russia is helping Iran with intelligence, but so what? What is that gonna do? It's not gonna help them fight anything. They can't fight. They don't have anything. Putin is telling Iran to make a deal. The Gulf states are telling Iran to make a deal. And the number one country that's telling them to make a deal on the low is China. Because China's not about to play with their oil. They need the oil to keep coming in from Iran because Trump already cut them off at Venezuela. There's no way that China will allow Trump to control the oil in Iran and Venezuela. They won't. This is geopolitics at the highest level. Period. There is a lot of stuff that is not being said, and there's a lot of stuff that is being said behind closed doors. And I know a lot of you guys, most of you guys weren't here at the beginning of beginning of the stream, the first stream I did. For some reason, the stream wasn't being pushed out to X, and something messed up. So I had to end the stream, restart it. So I'm happy that you guys are here now. But I started this stream off with the Alan Ritchson story about his neighbor. And the reason I did that was strictly because I wanted to have it on record that when I first did the analysis of that guy's story, I literally almost play for play called exactly what happened. And then I watched the video of the whole video because I knew when I first saw it, there was a whole video that was cut off. When we watched the whole video, it was exactly what I said. And I'm saying this, and I prefaced this stream with this, is because, like, I'm new to this space, guys. I'm new to the streaming space. But I'm not new at all to the politics. And I could see this. I can see it. It's just something I'm good at. It's something that I have. And so it was just an example or demonstration of me being able to show you guys in real time, like, compare what I said and then compare what really happened, and you'll see how crazy similar it is because I can just see stuff like that. My mind is able to map stuff out. So when I'm talking about the geopolitics, it's not because I'm this huge political guy, like I'm going to run for office or anything. It's just that I can see the patterns, and I have so much information from all the stuff that I read and I've listened to over the years that I in the history, and just being a nerd, just knowing history, just understanding the past and how really the past is it just repeats itself. And a lot of people talk about where we are now, guys, not to scare anybody, but real talk. It kind of reminds people of like 1938, 1939, right? Before we're entering into World War II, where, there seems to be some kind of, I don't know why the left side of the political aisle in America is adopting this kind of pro-IRGC rhetoric or this pro-Iran regime rhetoric. And it's weird because, yeah, we know you hate Trump. Okay. But why does hating Trump equal being friends or promoting Iran? Sorry. I'm at work, but I'll definitely catch the next stream. Do you run a Discord for live notifs or community stuff? Add me up on Discord. Wow. So, like I said, I'm new to this. I'm new to the streaming area, and I wasn't sure kind of how I was going to do this. If I wanted, I tried to just do kind of videos, but I felt like this stuff needs to be covered in real time. So I didn't even think about starting a Discord, but I will do that. And when I do that, I will push it out on X, and I'll make sure I'll put it on my Twitch because, yes, I definitely need to run a Discord so that everyone can jump in the Discord and can and we can build the community. We can talk, because that'd be great. And I can take your guys' questions live and doing all that stuff, because this is the kind of stuff that I like talking about and I like doing, because you can find perspectives online. You can listen to Hassan, you can listen to Asmongold, you can listen to other people that are on here. But I think for me, like the thing that you're going to get with me is, number one, I am a Christian, 100%. I'm just not a simp. So when people say, oh, like when I was talking about the Alan Ritchson stuff, about they were kind of beating him up because he doesn't like Trump, and they think he's, a lefty, whatever, who cares? But they were really trying to bang on him for being a Christian. Why is he beating this guy up? And I just knew that the way that guy thinks and the way he is, he's not doing that because he's some fake guy. He's doing that for a specific reason. That was already in my head. So when I went into that situation and I started listening to that guy's explanation, I said, aha. And then when you watch the real video that came out, you could see that this guy was doing it for the clout. He was doing it because he wanted to try. He lied about everything, and he wanted to try to get some kind of fame so that he could try to, press charges or something, and the tables are turned on him. But my point is very simple. Just because you follow Christ doesn't mean that we're just going to not do anything. That's not how that's going to happen. And you pick the wrong one, you're going to pick the wrong one, right? And number two, yeah, I'm a conservative, guys. I'll say that right now. If that makes you not want to follow me, I don't care, like, at all. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I lean right 100%. I'm married. I got kids. Like, I care about what happens. I'm a patriot. I love this country. Like, that's just 100%. I'm pro-America, period. America first, hands down. It doesn't mean that, and here's the thing. America first doesn't mean America doesn't care about people or doesn't care about other countries. That's not what that means. Wherever you are in your country, that country to you should be first. You should care where you live. It should matter to you. You should care about where you live. It should be the pride of your culture, who you are, and it doesn't matter what color you are. I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're brown. I don't care if you're black. I don't care what shade you are. The race and the color doesn't matter. What matters is, do you care about where you come from, and do you appreciate that? And the problem in America is we have a side who feels kind of shame, I guess, and kind of like regret that they live here, but they won't leave and go somewhere else. And if they do, they regret it, because it's partly that they've been brainwashed to believe that. So I have some sympathy there, because they go to institutions that have been invaded by radical Marxists, communists who want to destroy this country because they believe in some kind of fake utopia that has never existed and never will. And we've allowed that because if you take this idea of progressivism, it's permeated the entire culture and the entire political system and structure of America, and maybe even the world. And what I mean by that is, if you go back, and I've said this before in my past streams, if you go back 50, 60 years, you can go back farther, but let's just go back 50, 60 years. The right that you would claim, the conservatives of 50 to 60 years would look at the right today and would be appalled. They would not know who these people are. They would think they are absolutely complete leftists, right? And if you look at the liberals, the left, 60 years ago, they would be absolutely appalled with the left now. They would think these guys are communists. And so my point is, it doesn't matter what happens, because everything is going left. It all goes left. It all goes more progressive. And it's the human nature of it's the erosion of morality. That's really what it is. It's the erosion of morality. Things will continually get worse because we will continually allow it to get worse. Because we will continually not care as much as what our parents cared more about things than we do, and it just keeps going down the line. That's really what it comes down to, right? Like your great great grandparents cared a lot about like not going even to the store without looking a certain way, right? Your grandparents taught you manners, how keep your elbows off the table, eat with a napkin in your lap. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Being polite, etiquette, like that was a big deal. And then your parents probably made you dress up when you went to church, probably made you have to like not wear certain clothes to school, right? And then you don't do that because you think about all the trauma, or you think about how you were controlled or whatever it was. And you can see each generation gets more liberal, more progressive, right? And so I guess my point is that conservatism in the greatest sense is just trying to preserve the moral decay of what that generation perceives as moral decay. That's really what that's about. So that's what I believe. And it's downhill, or it's downstream from my religious beliefs, right? So that's what that is. But I'm also a very unique individual because I can see both sides, because I naturally like debating, and I like debating because I love the truth, and I will cede to the truth regardless about how I feel about it. I care more about the truth than I care about my own feelings. If it hurts my feelings, okay, I don't care. What I care about is being right. Not that I'm making myself right, but I care about being right because I'm choosing truth, not a lie. And I think that's so. What I'm trying to say is, I I don't care about. I don't want to say I don't care about people's feelings. I do. I just care that the truth is said and the truth is followed, and wherever that goes, that's where it goes. And I would rather be authentic to that than to try to pander to people. I don't care about pandering to anyone. If people come to my stream and they want to listen to someone who's analyzing things, mapping it out, and telling the truth, regardless of where those chips go, like, that's what's happening here. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I'm going to push. And yes, you're going to hear a black man's, who's a conservative, and a Christian's thoughts in real time, not some kind of caricature that is spouted online or in the press, and who's never even talked to those kinds of people. I know that I am a kind of a unicorn. I'm kind of a rarity, especially on the online space and just in life in general, because everyone thinks that because you're black, you have to be a Democrat, or because you're this, you have to be that. That's not true. And I'm definitely not one of those people. So I could be that rare, person in your life that, hey, I know this guy, and this is how he thinks, and he represents a class of guys that think this way. And that's true. So if you found me because of that, save me for that alone, because it doesn't matter what news you're getting, or where you're getting your news from, or where you're getting your information from. Just understand that it is always good to get all the sides of a story before you make a conclusion, right? I'm the type of person that listen, guys, I work from this desk. I sit at this desk. I listen to this stuff every day, all day. I listen to it even more knowing that I'm now obligating myself to come on and talk about it. So I have been absorbed in this stuff for years. That's why I know. And I also, like I said, I'm a nerd. I watch World War II and World War I documentaries. I read this stuff. Like, it's just the stuff that I absorb. So me being able to espouse it and kind of frame it and kind of be able to, distill it into something that's actually consumable for people, I take that serious, and I want to do that for people. Okay. So I'm just saying all that just so you kind of get a little bit of like flavor of like where I'm coming from and how I think, and just to understand that I'm not someone who is going to try to skew it to convince you, because it's not about convincing. It's about, I'm going to look at this, I'm going to analyze it, I'm going to give you my 2 cents. Hopefully that's another angle that you didn't think about. Chew on it, and then let me know what you think, right? That's what this is about. And so also, I'm trying to figure out a kind of a good way for me to go through the headlines and go through the things that has some kind of cohesion, so you're not getting freaking like whiplash from all the stuff I'm doing. And listen, guys, like I said, I'm new to this. Please give me some grace as I kind of figure it out and stumble my way through it. If you guys got ideas, send them to me. I'd love to hear your ideas because, whatever kind of makes sense. But what I think I'm going to do today is Iran, like I've said on all my past streams, Iran is the biggest. And when I mean the biggest, this war, I don't want a war, this conflict, I don't care how old you are, it will be historically the biggest, most monumental thing to happen on this planet in modern time. You could take it to the bank. It's bigger than Iraq. It's bigger than 9/11. It's the biggest world event since World War II. Because the consequences of what's happening here, like I don't think we understand. I don't think people understand. The worst case, like if you really wanted to jack it up to worst case, guys, is nuclear war. World War III, end of the world stuff. That is 100% worst case, and it's possible. Okay? If Iran doesn't listen to China and America and make a deal, and if China feels completely threatened because they can't get their oil, and there's no pulling, and Russia and Ukraine, it can get real bad real fast, guys. Okay? That's worse. That's worst case. Okay? What's best case scenario? And I talked about this on my other streams because a lot of people are doomers. I'm not a doomer, guys. I'm an optimist. But I'm an optimist with proof. Because I don't care what you think about Trump. Try to disassociate how you feel about him. Okay? Just look at the pragmatic outcomes. The man has a track record for accomplishing things that people say can't be done. And he has a track record of accomplishing things that people specifically say he can't do. Now, is this like the biggest thing that he has taken on? Yes. Could it not work? Yes. But I challenge you to just think, what if it does? Here are some possibilities of what happens if this conflict is put to rest and America comes out winning. The Strait of Hormuz, which carries 20% of the world's oil, 80% of China's oil, our adversary, 95% of Japan's, most of Europe's, is secured. It is now basically controlled by a puppet government that we have control over, meaning America, not NATO, America. Right? There are things put in place to which Iran will never be able to build up military defenses like he had. It will never have a nuclear weapon. And we will have our hand on 20% of the world's oil. Why is this important? I talked in my other stream about this. The entire point of this, a lot of people are focusing, like Bill O'Reilly and Pierce, and everyone's focusing on, well, why did it have to be now? And there's a lot of stuff that went into that. And in my other last stream, we went through Bill O'Reilly's interview with Lindsey Graham, and Lindsey Graham is the one person in the entire Senate and really in the government that knows the Iran conflict to a T. Multiple presidencies, like he's been on the front lines of the Abraham Accords. He knows everything there is to know about why we are where we are with this. The footnotes, the cliff notes is very simple. We were in discussions with Iran for no nuclear weapon. They basically said F you. They told us that they had 430 grams at 60% enrichment, and they told us they weren't going to stop. Okay? And the Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, told Trump, hey, they're all in one place. We can strike them now. And Trump thought about it, and really the linchpin, the decision that he made was when Witkoff came to Trump and said, hey, they're not going to stop. And they said they already have 430 grams at 60% enrichment. And Trump said, hit him. And they hit him. I want you guys to remember this, okay? People are like, well, he said he wasn't going to start no new wars. There's two things I will say to that. That's a perfect criticism. That criticism is valid. But there's two things I want to say. Number one, you can argue, and I would argue, that he did not start a war because we technically aren't in a war. We are in a conflict. Congress has to vote to go to war, okay? That's a technicality, yes. But the other part of that technicality is that Iran has been, quote unquote, at war with America since its inception in 1979. We just haven't done anything about it. We tried to give everything to them to appease them because presidents were afraid of doing what Trump is doing and thought that the American people weren't going to be able to stick with it. And I believe they were right. And the reason why they were right is because the technology of the day was not prepared for that. The cost was too high. And it's true. So I give them a lot of slack. I was thinking through about this. Like, yeah, you could say there were some cowards. Like Jimmy Carter was a coward, period. He was a coward for letting the Beirut situation happen. But, Obama, Bush, like you could say Obama was kind of a coward because he gave him all that money. But at that point, he's surrounded by a lot of people that have already been in the government for a long time, dealing with Iran for a long time, and this was just how you dealt with them, right? But we live in a time now where AI has transformed everything. Like today, we just saw Melania Trump walk out with an autonomous robot, an AI autonomous robot, and they want to have these robots start teaching kids, which I think is just next level crazy. But I digress. The point I'm saying is that AI, at the birth of AI, has changed our entire civilization as human beings on this planet. If you want to understand what Iran is about, it's not just about Iran. We knew that we were going to have to deal with this country regardless. It was going to have to get dealt with. I think that they wanted to do a deal. They really thought that they wanted to do a deal, but Trump realized these people are not going to do a deal because they are theocratic. They view everything through the lens of their radical religion. You cannot negotiate with these people. You have to negotiate with someone who is pragmatic. You cannot negotiate through a religion theocracy. You just can't, because they will never keep their word. And I believe they always knew that this was going to happen. Now, what does it mean to have to do a deal now? Well, if they do a deal now, there's going to be things in place where basically we will have all the leverage. Iran, the IRGC, will never be able to get to where they were before ever. It will never happen. They're done. They're going to be a shell. They're going to be a puppet. Okay, that's just what that is. But the real, there's I talked about I keep saying I talked about this in my last stream, but I just want to reiterate this. The real war that's being waged right now is not with Iran. It's with China. Okay? It's the Cold War with China. You can make an argument that China is a paper tiger. You can also make an argument that China is a sleeping giant. And you're not going to hedge your bets that it's a paper tiger. You're going to hedge your bets that it's a sleeping giant. The number one power, the ring to rule them all, guys, is AI. AI and the development of it and the pushing of it requires immense amount of energy. I believe Trump said, or his advisor said, that it would require doubling what all the energy that America outputs right now. It requires double to come out ahead. Now, that's the reason why he's drill baby drill. That's the reason why he's for fracking. That's the reason why he tasked the kid that Jason, I looked it up on my last stream. Look it up. It's the kid that went on the Sean Ryan podcast who Trump tasked to build mini nuclear reactors all over the country. It's the reason why we went to Venezuela and got Maduro out. Venezuela and Iran are in the top 3. I think it's number 1. I think it's number 2 and number 3. It could be number 1 and number 3 countries in the entire world, guys, that have the most oil reserves, meaning that the oil is sitting in the ground or they're just stored in the country and they haven't been exported. They're not the number 1 exporters. It's just that those countries have the most oil in the world that they sit on. And a lot of people don't know this, but Venezuela, the infrastructure to extract oil in Venezuela is from United States countries. It's from like Chevron and BP and Mobil. And back in the 70s, and then after the revolution or whatever it was, the socialists, the drug dealers, they took it over, and all those companies lost trillions, billions of dollars because all the infrastructure and all the money they spent was taken over by these bad actors and never got it back. And now that Trump has taken Maduro out and has kind of brought Venezuela back into the fold and is now trying to reform them, Trump is trying to convince them to go back into Venezuela and start pumping the oil, right? But Venezuela wasn't just for taking out Maduro, kind of setting Venezuela, flipping Venezuela from a narco state to a state that now is basically controlled by America and is in the fold. Venezuela is very important, not just because of the oil, but because Maduro was selling China cheap oil. China was getting 80% of its oil from the Strait of Hormuz, and it was supplementing it with Venezuela, and they were getting it both for cheap. Okay, which is helping their economy immensely because their economy is suffering terribly. That is a paper tiger. But what Trump did by taking Maduro out and basically all but capturing Venezuela, right? He was able to not only cut off Cuba, which is another bad actor who is also a communist state, which is also in bed with China and Russia, which are our enemies, which are right next door to us. He cuts them off, cuts off the influence from Russia, cuts off the influence from China, cuts off their influence in really in the Western Hemisphere because now Venezuela's gone, and now he's weakened China because now he controls one of their pipelines for the energy that they need for their AI arrays. Iran is the linchpin. China has given and poured all the defense systems, guys, all the missile systems, all that stuff is from China. 90% of that's from China, the rest is from Russia. So there's so many levels to this where Iran, just decimating Iran means that the terror groups are gone. Hezbollah is going to go away. Hamas is going to go away. The Houthis are going to go away. The IRGC is basically going to go away. No more terror. And if there is, we're going to come in, we're going to kill everybody. That's just what's going to happen. Okay, number 1. Number 2, the oil now is going to go through. Everybody's going to get their oil, but now we have direct control. No, I should say control. I don't want to say control. We have direct influence over 80% of China's oil. And the cherry on top is that this conflict, because of the reaction of Iran, only pushes the Gulf states closer to Trump, closer to the United States, and closer to Israel. It cements the relationships that were started in the first term with the Abraham Accords. This is very, 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 very important stuff to get. The Gulf states, Qatar, Saudi, UAE, all the states around Iran, right? October the 7th happened because Iran did not want the Abraham Accords in Saudi Arabia to formally recognize Israel as a state. Because once that happens, Iran is out cold and everyone else is together. It delayed that. But after this military action, that's what's going to happen. Saudi's going to come into the Abraham Accords. It's going to recognize Israel as a state. And there's going to be true peace in the Middle East. Because Iran as a terror proxy is going to be wiped off the board. It's already off the board. Which allows Trump's board of peace to actually be realized. Which is why I think NATO is pretty much obsolete now. And so in that sense, we're talking about a war, a conflict that is won. Oil prices will plummet. There'll be an economic boom. We'll come off as a win. It'll be a huge win for Trump. The Abraham Accords will be cemented. There'll be true peace in the Middle East for the first time ever. Trump will most likely get his Nobel Peace Prize. That is, the midterms will be won. And you're talking about, I believe, the makings of prosperity that we've never seen before. These are the stakes. You can argue about timing and information, but the bottom line is Trump is not a warmonger. He's already proven that. So for people to say, oh, well, now he wants to start a war. Is that how you view people in your life? If your brother or your sister is someone who hates violence and hates fighting, and all of a sudden gets into a fight, do you automatically assume that your brother or sister is all of a sudden some person that wants to fight all the time? No. It's silly. It's stupid. So if you have a public figure like Trump, who has said for years that he doesn't want to get into war, he doesn't want to do all this stuff, why do you think that he willingly wanted to do this? Or that he was somehow convinced by Jewish people to do it? Not even convinced, coerced. That's not what happened here. There is no one on planet Earth that can bully President Trump. There has never been anyone who could bully Trump. Period. When he wasn't the president. You weren't bullying Donald Trump. Not even the mob could bully Trump. And that's a true story. You can look that crap up. I died laughing when the mob guy was like, yeah, we would try to talk to Trump and Trump just wouldn't have it. And he started talking to the FBI and we started leaving him alone. But you're not gonna bully Donald Trump. If the mob can't bully Trump, the Jews isn't bullying Trump. That's just not what's happening here. And like I've said before, and I've done this because I want people to really think through this, okay? Israel is the size of New Jersey. Their GDP is approximately 2% of America's. They don't have enough money. It's not money, guys. Okay? Especially with Donald Trump. He's a billionaire. Okay? It's not money. It's loyalty. And Bibi Netanyahu isn't the guy with the big dick. It's Trump. And everybody knows it. And everybody kisses the ring. Period. So I say that to you guys so that you will look at it through the lens of not like, yes, are there people around him, including Bibi, who are influential? Yes. But that's all leaders. All leaders have people around them that influence their decisions. That doesn't mean that those people control that person, right? You guys have watched enough TV shows with kings, right? If you even take England, Henry VIII, he had a whole stable of women, right? And he had the church, Thomas and Mary, and all these people around him. They all influence him. They all have his ear. They all can talk to him. But ultimately, he's making the decision. Ain't nobody over here telling him he's going to do that. I know we're in the No More Kings protest, but we can call the person is in charge. He's in charge, okay? And regardless of what we want, listen, guys, I know it's hard, but America. Let me go to my just chat. Let me go to me because I'm on a rant and I'm gonna keep going. It was after World War II when Europe was devastated and America gave a lot of resources, money, credit, raw materials, tools, machinery to rebuild Europe. And we went through a boom while Europe recovered. And we just never stopped. It's just history. It's just what happened, right? You can blame people like Neville Chamberlain. You can blame people all you want, but hindsight is 2020. The fact is that the United States president is the most powerful person on the face of the earth. It just is. That man was elected by 77 million people. They chose him over Kamala. And he won in every single category that you can win. Every single one. And he has an uncanny, and this is the thing that I want people to really understand. I understand why people don't like him. I don't like him sometimes. But you don't have to like people to respect them. You respect them because of their accomplishments and of their status and of where they are. You may not have to like the things that they say, or sometimes you don't like the things that they do. But you respect the person because of the accomplishments. And it does not matter if you, let's just remove, and this is the thing, I'm not going to spend a bunch of time making a case for you to like Donald Trump. I'm not trying to do that. What I'm trying to do is get you to see past your annoyance and his annoying features as a person, his annoying flaws as a person. Because if you can do that, then you can kind of start seeing the stuff that I'm seeing. And you might be able to get a different view on things that will enable you to make better and informed decisions. And that's really what I want to do, okay? Remember who Donald Trump was before he was a president? Okay? He was a real estate mogul who became a billionaire in New York real estate. Number one, he's from Queens, New York. If you're not from around, if you're not in America, then you don't really understand that. But if you're in America, we all know New York is one of the toughest cities to have to grow up in. And it does not matter if you're rich or poor. It's just different. You still got to go get it. He's from Queens. And he went up and down throughout the decades of New York real estate, and he made it. And he was successful. And he failed, and he was successful. And he failed, and he was successful. And he earned what he has. He had a show called The Apprentice. It was one of the biggest reality hit TV shows on the air. And it was one of the top rated shows every time it came on. Matter of fact, Arnold Schwarzenegger took it over when Trump left. Everything that Trump did was successful. Now, the thing about Donald Trump is that he's really a leader. He's a CEO leader. He's one of those guys like Bob Iger. He's just one of those legendary CEO kind of figures who just know how to do the job, which is making decisions. And the decisions that they make are monumental, and they have significant consequences. And those consequences typically end up being good, which is why they're very successful. But he has spent decades of doing deals in real estate and in business and being very successful and making decisions and being very successful. And when he wasn't and he failed, he never quit. He figured out how to fix it. And when he came back, he was even more successful. That is his life. That is why rappers for decades rapped about him in their songs, from Jay-Z to Nelly, you name it, because he was an inspiration to those who wanted the American dream. Now, he becomes president. He runs as a Republican. He beats Hillary Clinton. And now all his friends in Hollywood and all his friends in the music industry and all his friends in California and on the left all of a sudden hate him now, right? And they say all these nasty things about him. That is what we're dealing with. But I want you to think about just one thing that he has in common throughout that whole thread that I just said. The man wins. And when he loses, he comes back and he wins bigger. You can say what you want to say about the 2020 election. I personally believe because of COVID, because of all the rule changes and all the mail-in ballots, I believe that election was manipulated. I believe that 100%. Matter of fact, the Supreme Court right now is listening to arguments about getting rid of mail-in ballots or counting mail-in ballots after election day, which absolutely should be, because a lot of the reason why Trump lost that election was a lot of ballots came in after the election and were counted. And if that wasn't the case, he would have won. But regardless of how you feel about that, he lost. And he came back and he won. He's only the second president in U.S. history to do that. He's the first president, I believe, since Reagan to win since Bush to win the popular vote as a Republican. So we're talking almost 30 years. And he won every swing state as a Republican, which is, I don't even know when the last time a Republican did that. Maybe Reagan, because Reagan was a very popular. But I would even say you'd have to adjust, because in the 80s, there wasn't too much difference between the Republican and the Democrat. You were really, really voting, for, maybe more corporatism, physical taxes kind of a thing. But really, it was the person. You're really looking at who you liked as the person. Whereas now we're so polar, and we're so polar because of Barack Obama introduced identity politics. That's just a fact. So I'm happy. I said all that. If you guys have any questions, put it in the chat. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my timeline. Not my timeline. I'm going to go through my bookmarks and my X, because there's some things I just wanted to kind of watch with you guys and kind of address. And then we're going to go into Iran, because I already covered the meta stuff. I already covered the Alan Ritchson stuff, which was hilarious. But I want to go into the things that are being talked about right now with the White House talking. So let's jump into this. We already looked at this weird guy. When someone cites anonymous Middle East allies, I think this is what this guy was saying.
We are way overdue for this. They need to be dealt with, and he finally had the guts to do it. So at the end of this, if we achieve those things I just laid out, you would agree the world would be a better place, yes?
I've got to agree with Scott, your point about the objectives. You and I both agree. Iranian regime, bad regime, dangerous regime,
Everyone
killed
does.
Americans, terrible regime. The reason you want to be consistent about your strategy is, depending on what opening move you make, it affects the second move. It affects the third move. Anyone who plays chess knows that. Donald Trump hasn't played chess. Donald Trump doesn't know how to play chess. And our allies tonight even told me in meetings that because Donald Trump kept shifting his objectives.
Who was it?
Because Donald Trump, I'll tell you when the president tells us who he's negotiating with.
So you don't. So
when
so
the
you're
president
claiming
keeps
you had
moving our
high-level
objectives-
conversations with other countries tonight?
I talk to people from the region all the time,
The
Scott.
region or with the governments?
Scott, here's the point. The people in that region, who are our allies, have been very public about their frustration with the president's shifting objectives. And I'll tell you why. Because when you say you're going to go in and undertake regime change and a decapitation strike, you encourage your ally to throw it all out there. Donald Trump, if he'd approached this war differently, would not have instigated Iran to go attack our closest allies in the region, which they have done.
So a couple things here. And it's hard to give people like this it's hard to listen to these kinds of people, because you know that they're being disingenuous on purpose. They're saying these things because they're saying talking points that the left projects, because that's what they're trying to say on CNN, because that's how they want their viewers to believe. Saying that Donald Trump isn't playing chess, like I just articulated the moves of what's been happening from Venezuela to Cuba to China to Iran, and the reason why and everything that's happening. And the reason I know that I can see that is because I've been listening to the president and everything that's been going on for 10 years. And I've been putting all these pieces together. I can see the strategy and I understand that. So that's just a weird thing to say. That's just an ad hominem attack. But for him to say this,
throw it all out there. Donald Trump, if he'd approached this war differently, would not have instigated Iran to go attack our closest allies in the region.
If Donald Trump would have approached this war, it's not a war, it's a conflict, differently, he would not have instigated Iran to attack our allies. I don't know what planet this person is from, but whenever you attack someone with violence, especially another country, war is unpredictable, number one. But number two, of course they're going to attack our allies because we're with us. They're with us. And so they can't really retaliate against America. How are they going to do that? With what firepower? They can't reach America. They're going to retaliate against our allies. So that's just a weird thing for him to say. But also, too, like, for him to say, like, Trump instigated them to attack, like, maybe the Gulf State. Like, no one predicted that they would do something like that, right? Because you really wouldn't just shoot everyone around you just because you're getting attacked. Like, that doesn't really make any sense. So you can't plan for crazy, right? Because it's hard to think about crazy. What would a crazy person do? You can't really think about that. You have to think logically through these things, right? And so, Iran attacking every Gulf state wasn't on the bingo card. There's no way to really prepare for that. But it doesn't really, you don't need to prepare because it's only going to make your position even that much more stronger, which is why it wasn't planned for. And that's exactly what it did. But when people make judgments like this and say, like, well, they should have did it differently, how? How would this person, if he was the president, how do you think he would say? What do you think he would do? I don't think he would do anything, number one. I think he'd be another Joe Biden. But it's really easy to say and point out to people, like, you should have done this differently, but then have no constructive feedback on how to do it better. All people can do is say how they would do it, but that doesn't mean that it's better. Your way could be completely worse or impotent. So it's a very weird thing for him to say.
Which they have done against civilian sites, against economic sites, that they would not likely have otherwise done if we had said, this is just about the ballistic missiles.
You think that Iran wouldn't attack civilians and economic sites like the Strait of Hormuz if we said it was just about the missiles? We already said that, you moron. We said you can't have a nuclear weapon. And they said, go F yourself. We're going to do it anyway. And this is the kind of disingenuousness that really makes me upset, because this person started off by saying we all agree that Iran is bad. Why do we agree Iran is bad? Why do we agree they're bad? We agree they're bad because they target civilians. They're terrorists. You're a white man. They hate you, bro. You're a white American. They want you all dead. Oops, what'd I do? Did I click something else? My bad, guys. Yeah, I hit.
We are way overdue for.
They want you all. They literally want you all dead. Doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not. It's what you represent. Death to America. Death to Israel. Death to the West. Why do they say that? Is it a race thing? No. It's a theology thing, guys. It comes down to God. Their God, Allah, and the West God, Yahweh, the Judeo-Christian God. That's what it comes down to. And so when this person says, yes, Iran's evil, but why are they evil? They're evil for the same tactics that you're complaining that they're using, because you think if we would have did it a different way. Like what way? Like the way Jimmy Carter did it? Obama? Biden? Bush? Who? What way? That's why this person is disingenuous and an idiot.
Because when you say you're going to go in and undertake regime change and a decapitation strike, you encourage your ally to throw it all out there. Donald Trump, if he'd approached this war differently, would not.
You encourage your ally to throw it all out there. I don't know what that means. Throw what out where? Throw out what where? The reason why he said regime change, which I don't know why that's such a weird buzzword. Maybe it's because everyone has PTSD from Iraq. I don't know. But the point is that there has to be a change of regime, a change in leadership, because they weren't going to do a deal. That's why. You have to remove those who don't want to do a deal and talk to the ones that do. And you're going to have to knock them down until you get to that person. And it just took us about 75 people, but we got there. You know, we had to knock out the first 3 levels of their leadership and all their cabinet members and take out all their factories and stuff, but we got there. We got there. That's what matters. But that's how, like, think about that. We had to kill that many people. We had to destroy that much infrastructure for them to actually want to have to do a talk, because that's how crazy these people are. See, I knew, and I know they do. I knew they knew. They knew that this was, well, I shouldn't say they. All American presidents, Clinton, Bush, since Jimmy, knew that this was going to happen. And they knew they weren't going to negotiate. Where do you think the term "we don't negotiate with terrorists" come from? It's because Iran. Why don't you negotiate with terrorists? Because they don't want to negotiate. They're not doing it for money or for politics. That's what people don't understand. These people are not fighting us because of money or economics or oil. They're fighting us out of religion. They're religious zealots, fanatics. It's fanaticism. You cannot convince a cult to stop believing what they believe. You have to literally destroy the cult. That's it. Typically, they will go away with when a leader goes away. But the sad thing is it's more than a cult. It's a bona fide religion, and they adhere to it. And that's why I said in my last stream, like, the difficulty with this war, with this conflict. I gotta stop saying war. I'm sorry, guys. It's not a war. It's a conflict. It's not a war until we vote. It's a war. Okay. It's a conflict. It strikes. The problem with Iran tactically is that they have what's called the Mosaic Doctrine, or the Mosaic Plan, which is, if the leadership goes away, then basically the IRGC fractures, and whoever has the highest rank is in charge, and they can do whatever they want. And so you're going to have a whole bunch of marauders, a whole bunch of brigands, a whole bunch of, 50 to 100, 30, 75 groups of men, soldiers, who are going to be, doing, terrorist hits, basically. So how do you, now it's no longer, it's more of like a guerrilla warfare kind of a thing, right? Where Iran really wants to create a situation where it becomes a war of attrition. That's what they want. And if you hear conflicting things like, Kyle, well, why is the president saying this, but then it says that Iran's saying something different? There's 2 things that's going on there. One is that they are fractured. And so the people that are spouting out of the mouth are not the ones that we're really talking to. We're talking to the ones that really have the power, not the ones that are jaw-jacking, right? The ones that jaw-jack are the ones that get the attention, but they're not the ones that really matter. That's why Trump was very, he was saying, we're sure we're talking to the right people because of what they gave us. We know that we verified we're talking to the right faction because of what they were able to give us as a gift. All right, that's number one. Number two, these are the type of people that are dumb. They're just stupid people. They're not intelligent. They're just not, guys. I'm not trying to be ad hominem. I'm just keeping it 100% real. They're not intelligent people. They're low IQ. And low IQ people do dumb stuff and say dumb things. That's just what we're dealing with here. Okay? And because they're dumb, they don't know when they're beat. And so they're just talking. Right? And I likened it in my previous streams as Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Right? When King Arthur comes to the road and the Black Knight's there and they duel and Arthur like chops all the guys' arms and legs off and he's like, come back, I'll bite your legs off, right? He can't do anything, but he doesn't want to admit that he's beat. That's the IRGC. They have been completely defanged, right? And so all they can do is try to create uncertainty in around Trump because that's the vulnerability. The vulnerability with Trump is that he's not liked, right? That's the currency that he's low on. He's low on social currency. He's not low on power currency. But see, the exercising power or dominance over someone is the lowest form of power because it is when the opportunity arises, that person isn't gonna, it's not gonna listen, right? And so you have to constantly be in a place of leverage in order to have compliance. Whereas the highest form of power is loyalty, because someone is giving you their loyalty, is giving you their really themselves willingly, right? And people are inspired to do things for you and on your behalf because they believe in you, right? And that's what Trump has in the base, the MAGA base. Not, I know we are seeing this huge podcast war with Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro, and I've listened to these people for years. I know them. I have my own opinions about them. I'm not going to speak on them, too heavily. I hope to be one day to be able to be face to face with them or talk to them on stream or on channel or come on one of their shows, Piers Morgan or something like that. But like people keep thinking like these people are MAGA. They're not. Even Ben, he's not. None of these guys are. They were all not. Remember, Megyn Kelly did the debate in 2016. She wasn't MAGA. She wasn't with Trump. For all we know, she voted for Hillary. I got no idea. I just know that she wasn't on the bandwagon. Tucker definitely wasn't. Ben didn't vote for him. Ben didn't even vote for him this time. He was going to vote for DeSantis. Right? Like, none of these people were MAGA. They didn't vote for him in his first term. I think most of them already admitted that, if not all of them. So it's really weird, and that's why these polls make sense, where it says MAGA's behind Trump 100%, because they are. They are. They see Trump as the guy that represents their best interests, which is why he wins. But the uncanny thing that this person has, okay, and the reason why you can make the argument that that he's down in the polls now overall is because of independence. Because they just don't see what I see. They don't see where this leads, what this can lead to. And so here's what I'll try to say. Whenever you're a leader and you make a controversial decision, it's because you have a vision and you're able to see where you're going. And what makes leaders lead and what makes a good leader a leader is that they're able to see what other people can't see. And they're able to make decisions with that. Now, yes, can a leader see a vision but become arrogant or become prideful in the way that they overestimate their ability or the people around them's abilities to be able to deliver on such a vision? Yes. And that's where failure happens. But the really good leaders are able to compensate for that or use it and leverage it to then accomplish the goal and become and gain even more. And that's what Trump is able to do. He really is that kind of person. It's not something that you're born. It's not something that you develop. It's something that you're born with. He just has it, and he has it in spades. And the reason I say that is because you don't get to do the things that this man has done and not have that stuff. Regardless of how you feel about him, he is the man of the hour. He was made for this, guys. It's almost as if all that time in Hollywood and in the streets of New York and all the stuff that he's been and all the time he's been on TV, it's like all of that has accumulated for this time for him as a human being. All the stuff that he's accumulated. You don't do this kind of historic stuff without having a date with destiny. It is what it is. Now, you could either feel really good about that, you could be very scared about it, and I totally understand that. I totally understand both sides of that, and I understand, like, it's very tough having your future be in the hands of someone you don't like or you don't understand. But see, this is something that I'll say to people. In the Bible, and I'll get back to this. I just want to say this. In the Bible, when Jesus is talking to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and they're kind of coming at him, Jesus makes a point that says, like, they keep bugging him, like, who is he? And Jesus is basically like, you know who I am, and you're trying to basically, you want me to say it so that you basically can have an excuse to kill me. But he says something that's very powerful. He says something like, if you don't believe in me, if you don't believe I'm God, if you don't believe that I am the person I say I am, at least believe in the works. At least believe in the miracles I'm doing. Like, I'm doing them in front of you. You see me doing them. No one has done the things that I've done before, ever. Not in the scriptures, not in life. So if you don't believe the words coming out of my mouth, at least believe the work I'm doing. Right? And so I make that same case to everybody. You don't have to believe in Trump. But just look at what the man continues to do, regardless of what obstacles are in front of him. And I'll share this with you guys. The reason why I voted for Donald Trump in 2016 was because I realized something. And this is how I thought about him. This is how I thought about him in 2016. I thought he was arrogant. I thought he was out for himself. I thought he didn't care about really anybody but himself. And I even thought he really wanted to be president just to make his companies richer, make himself richer. And I had a very cynical way of looking at politics because I was a young guy, black guy, new dad. Like, I got married in March of 2016. And so, like, my life, my priorities had changed then, right? And I'm looking at Hillary and I'm looking at Trump, and to me, it wasn't that big of a choice there, right? But I had this moment where I realized something. I said to myself, you know what? If he is this way, and he gets into office, because his companies are in America, he's going to do everything he can to make his companies and himself in a great position that it's going to make all of us rich. Like, we can ride those coattails and we could be great. Like, that's how I was thinking. Obviously, over time, I don't believe that anymore. He really is a patriot. He really loves this country. He really cares about this country, regardless of whether you believe that or not. I believe that with my whole heart. He cares very, very deeply about this country and what he believes this country was and should be. But I'm saying this because even my cynical outlook on that, thinking that, well, he's going to raise the tide and all boats rise with the tide, right? That's what we're kind of talking about now. He's doing everything he can do for what he believes will make America great and make America prominent. He's not doing this to make other people rich. He doesn't care about the money. He's 80 years old. Okay, guys, he's 80 years old. He's never going to run out of money before he dies. Okay, it's not about that, right? His son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is wealthy. Everybody around him is wealthy. Witkoff, they're all wealthy. It's not about the money. It's about power. Our power in America was being depleted on purpose. It was being extracted on purpose and given away to NATO because globalists needed America to be weak so that they can make it even with the rest of the world and have a globalist regime. Trump is not a globalist. He's a patriot. I don't really know if he's a nationalist per se, but he's a patriot. He believes in sovereignty. He believes in the Constitution. He believes in the American way. He is just a red-blooded American. That's just what he is. From New York. A lot of people don't remember that. The blood in New York for America is strong, guys. It really is. New Yorkers are a different breed. New York is a different place. I got a lot of family from New York. It just is. That's also why he says stuff that is offensive, because New Yorkers just don't care. And it's water off a duck's back. I told the story that Robert F. Kennedy told about how he was suing him and how Trump really didn't care and gave him a ride on his jet to Florida with his wife, and they were laughing and having dinner, and because Trump doesn't take anything personal because he's a New Yorker. He just doesn't. He just knows it's just part of the game. It's just part of what it is. Right? And so guys like this, these smug wannabe intellectuals. I graduated high school. I didn't go to college. But I'm kind of like Charlie Kirk. I would say, yeah, I'm like I'm an autodidact. I read, I retain knowledge, I study. I know a lot about a lot of things. Politics, theology, science. Like I'm just one of those people. Philosophy. And so that's why I felt obligated, guys. I'm not lying to you. I felt obligated to start doing these kinds of streams because I felt obligated, not just because I need to have my voice heard, but I felt like there's just so many people saying dumb stuff that just needs to be corrected. And there needs to be a voice of a reason. And I feel like I could be that voice. That's just really what it comes down to.
Have instigated Iran to go attack our closest allies in the region, which they have done against civilian sites, against economic sites, that they would not likely have otherwise done if we had said, this is just about the ballistic missiles. This is just about the nuclear program. Do you remember when they struck the nuclear sites before?
You're saying,
we didn't see LNG facilities struck in the wake of that.
Because they didn't know we were there. We were gone before they ever knew we were there. So you're saying if we had sent out...
we also annihilated it, right?
You're saying if we had sent out the correct press...
Wrong. We annihilated most of it. Trump and the administration never said we destroyed their entire capability. We degraded it greatly, about 75, 80%, but they're still labs and they still had the uranium. It's very important to understand that. Okay? We didn't obliterate entirely Midnight Hammer last June. And then now all of a sudden the administration is making this up and they can make it. But I thought that we obliterated what we obliterated, but they still had more stuff. Okay, that is the point, and that's why they were able to say "F you," we can still keep going, and we are, and we're not going to stop.
Release, the Iranians wouldn't have acted erratically.
Hold on. Let me back up to first question.
Gone before they ever knew we were there. So you're saying if we had sent out,
we also annihilated it, right?
You're saying if we had sent out the correct press release, the Iranians wouldn't have acted erratically.
No, I'm saying if the president of the United States understood why he was there, we'd be able to achieve our objectives.
Hold on. If the president of the United States, okay, so I've got to say this for these kinds of people, because I don't know who's watching me now. I'm like I said, I'm new to this, so I listen. If you are listening to this guy and you think that this guy is 100% right, this is for you. Donald J. Trump is not stupid. You can call him uncouth. You can call him an imbecile as far as not his intellect, but how he speaks. You can think that he is rude, and you can talk all about the etiquette and of how you think someone should talk. Like, if you guys ever watch Andrew Wilson or his debates, people like to talk about his tone. Like, I don't like how he speaks sometimes. I think it's very unchristian. I think it's very clear how you should speak. But I've cursed in this live stream, so I'm not judging whatsoever. But you can make that argument, and they call it tone policing. But there's a lot of people that they need that sugarcoating, right? They need. I guess there's a certain type of maybe lie or facade or varnish that Americans need, that their leaders to speak in order to make them feel good. That's just how people are, I guess. I'm just not that person. I don't care about that, but there's a lot of people that do. And because Trump doesn't do that, and even less so now because he's older and he's in a second term where he's not getting a third, he does it even less. So for that reason, people think that equates intelligence, and it doesn't. And I want to make this case so that you also can have this rattling around in your head when you're thinking through this, okay? I don't care who you are. You do not become a billionaire because you're an idiot. It just doesn't happen. We all go to jobs. We all have work to do. Whatever that work is, you had to learn it. Right? You go to a company, you go do a job, that company gives you a paycheck, right? Whoever started that company is not an idiot. Especially if that company's been in business for a while now, right? And they've had to maintain it, they'd have to build it, and they had to make sure that all their employees get paid. Year after year, decade after decade. Building it is the hardest thing you can do. Maintaining it gets easier, especially when you have the right people in, but it's still not easy. To have a successful business is one thing. To have a business that is a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, multi-generational, is a whole nother ballpark, guys. Okay? For someone who has absolutely no connections in politics other than just knowing politicians or donating to them, and runs for office, doesn't run for Senate, doesn't run for Congress, but runs for the highest it sounds like a movie. It sounds like a fairy tale. It's crazy. Runs for the highest office of the entire world the first time and wins. When everyone thought, they said it was 90% chance that Hillary would win. I know you guys remember that. 90% chance. And he smokes her. He loses his second election, and then he comes back and wins for the second time in 3 tries in a landslide. And he says landslide because it was. This stuff doesn't happen to stupid people. Okay? the deals that he has done and is doing around the world for this country for the last 10 years is not someone who is dumb. So please, for the love of God, feel how you want to feel about him, but don't underestimate him. Because one thing's for certain, Trump has created a character for himself. The character that you see on TV is the character and the facade that he has created over the years. And that's what he wants. He wants it because people, his base, like it, and his enemies hate it. And it keeps his enemies off balance, and it charges up his base. But I promise you, the exaggerated person in front of the camera is not that person in real life. He's the same person. He has the one thing that you have to say about Trump has a very strong moral compass. Yeah, he'll say offhanded stuff, he'll locker room talk, as he says, because he's old school. He's 80 years old, guys. You got to remember that. He's old school, right? He's old school from New York, right? He's a grandpa. Got to remember that, guys. You really do. It matters. It's context. But like he's not one of these swamp monsters. He's not one of these swamp politician monsters. You're not going to have any kind of, dirt on him to manipulate him or blackmail him, because he just doesn't operate that way. He's not a politician that had to do X, Y, and Z to get X, Y, and Z and to make compromise all the way up to the top. That's not him. He was outside the system. That's largely why the system rejects him and hates him. Because while they had to do all these things to get to where they are, he got to skip the line and just win. And a lot of people resent him for it, right? But people like this, and if you're on this stream, stop it. Stop it. Just be honest. Be authentic. You don't need to lie. You don't need to exaggerate. And you don't need to be an NPC.
Get rid of the nukes, get rid of the missiles, get rid of the terrorism.
But the reality is,
from the beginning.
the American.
Oh, this was great. I read this. I didn't listen to this, but I read this and I thought this was hilarious.
Why a lot of the late shows.
What's your guys' favorite Vince Vaughn movie? What's your favorite? My favorite, Wedding Crashers, 100%. Wedding Crashers. Okay. Close second would be, oh my gosh, Swingers. Close second. Favorite. My top two. Swingers is more like a Jon Favreau, but like obviously Money Baby. Like that Vince Vaughn, phenomenal. But Wedding Crashers, like I know that movie by heart, and I love it.
Why a lot of the late shows have struggled.
Oh,
because
bro.
all they did during the only person they could make fun of at a certain point was just like white redneck kind of people, and it fucking tanked, and then everything tanked after that.
Think about that. But see, they never get it right. The podcasts have gotten so much more popular with less production, less writers, less staff.
I wonder
the
why.
reason why
we have two
is
people working here, and both of them are hungover. Then one guy has shingles.
but the place is clean. I like that. You keep a clean place.
Thank you. Yeah, we did
it
vacuum.
But yeah, because people want authenticity.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And I think that the talk shows.
That's interesting that he said that. I did not watch this, guys. So I promise you, I didn't watch this. I literally started telling myself, I'm gonna start saving things that look interesting. I'm just gonna watch them on stream for a little bit of reaction. But that's true. Like that's what I was saying. Like I truly believe like that's what I'm gonna do here. I started doing this stream I think a little bit over like a month ago, and I had zero. Like I was just talking to air for a month, right? And then I started to get 1 and 2, and like it's great. People are now starting to tune in, starting to follow, and I hope to gain a following and really start, getting this out here. But people do. They want authenticity. And listen, I'm I told you. I just want to give the truth. I want to say the truth. I want to interact with the truth. And I want to find the truth. And people want to say, oh, it's my truth. There's no such thing as my truth, guys. That is what's so important. That's the one thing that I really want to get across. There is only objective truth. There is no your truth, my truth, their truth, her truth. No. That's called opinion. We can all have points of view and opinions. We can all have inputs. But the truth exists outside of self and is. And no amount of words or colorful language, I guess that's another way of saying words, is going to change the truth, right? And so if I'm wrong, it's because I'm wrong, because the truth is the truth and I'm wrong. And I'll have to admit that when I'm wrong. If I'm right, then it's true, right? And I think that, facts don't, just because there's facts doesn't mean that the conclusion is true, right? And that's the thing that we have to always think about. We look at the evidence, we look at the proof, we look at the facts. And from those, which are true, right? The facts are true, but we draw conclusions from those facts to try to figure out what is this communicating? And that could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. I could be completely right. But that's why I showed at the beginning of that other stream, which I don't know, I'll see if I can merge it or whatever, of me speaking on the Alan Ritchson story yesterday or 2 days ago when the story first broke, and then me playing the actual full video and showing you in real time, like this is what I was walking through and why. But I think that Vince Vaughn hit it right on the nail on the head, because I'm a consumer too. Like, I watch people too, and I gravitate towards people that are authentic. And authentic meaning like they're not putting on a front to try to get people to like them or try to get follows or clicks. Like, I literally started this with one thing in mind. I'm going to say what I want to say, and I'm not going to worry or try to pander or cater to anybody. And if that means I end up with one person watching or I end up with 1 million people watching, it'll be because I am who I am. And people are either going to love my mind and how I think and how I work through stuff and how I challenge them and how I help them to understand things, or even how I disseminate information. And that's going to be something that they'll share with their friends or their family. And I'll gain a following organically through sheer appreciation of the work that I do, or I won't. And that's okay. But the fact remains is, like, it should be because you're providing people with, entertainment, information, and just more than what they would have gotten if they go somewhere else or something different. And that's really what this is about. So I'm glad that Vince said that.
To a large part, became really agenda-based.
Yeah.
They were going to evangelical people to what they thought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so people just rejected it because it didn't feel authentic. It felt like they had an agenda.
Don't preach to me.
And it stopped being funny, and it started feeling like I was in fucking a class I didn't want to take. But if you look at what happened to the talk shows and why their ratings are low, it's got only to do with the fact of what you just said, which is they all became the same show.
Yeah.
And they all became so about their politics and who's good and who's bad.
That's good. That's interesting. And that's, wow, that's really true because, well, I think it's true. Like Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, they are pretty much the same. What's his face? I can see his face in my mind, but I can't. The guy on Comedy Central, Jon Stewart. It's funny because they are kind of all the same, right? And they're all on the left. And they're all saying the same talking points. And yeah, I mean, their ratings dropped off a cliff. Speaking of that, I'm going to play a video right after this about, I'll play it right after this one.
And it's like, imagine sitting next to someone like that on a fucking plane.
Oh.
Bro, you'd be like, how do I get out of this fucking seat?
I would fart right next to
Holy
him.
cow. You fart your way out of it.
Yeah, dude, I would. Oh, I would for sure. And I'm
Fucking
sorry.
skunk. You know the skunk's the king of the jungle.
Why a lot of the
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. What are we doing here? I don't know what's happening here. I don't want to share this. That's hilarious. I'm gonna fart my way out of it. Next time you guys are on a plane that you don't want to be on, next to someone, just fart your way out of it. That's great. That's fantastic. Okay, hold on.
We are way over.
So speaking of this, okay, of ratings, it's got to be in my history, right here.
We've told you before that things are not going well for CNN and MS Now, formerly.
You won't believe
CNN
it.
during the...
You won't believe it. Where is it? I think it's at 9 minutes.
If it's not a Monday when Rachel Maddow is on the air. Be careful, they'll trick you that way. Now combined. Especially if it's not a Monday when Rachel Maddow is on the air. Be careful, they'll trick you that way. Fox News, let me say it. Fox News has more viewership than MS Now and CNN combined. And why?
Why?
This is what matters. Why? Why is that happening?
Why does Fox News now have more viewers than CNN and MS Now combined? Why?
Remember that CNN, they thought they had a big win here. And why did they think they had a big win? Well, they had THR was telling them, hey, you're going to grow with Iran coverage. We got us another Iraq. We're going to sit there and we're going to slam the orange man. We're going to slam that guy. Get in there. Talk to the mullahs and see if they'll let you in and have an exclusive. And MS Now, they didn't get the exclusive, but MS Now is going to cover it, right?
Remember, or maybe you don't remember. Maybe you don't know this. I'm sorry. I keep saying remember like I didn't cover this. I forget. I don't know when I officially started this, but CNN went to Iran. The Ayatollah, the IRGC, let CNN into Iran, into Tehran, and CNN covered it and said, "There's nothing to see here. Everything's great. Everything looks good here. No problems. Bombs are far away. Everything's good." And I remember seeing it on Twitter, and I commented and I said, "You guys, this is straight up propaganda, and this is disgusting. This is the most un-American thing I've ever seen."
Well, it turns out that it looks like now, and cross your fingers, cross your toes, it looks like this thing's going to wrap up. We don't know how that's going to go in terms of what leadership will be in that country going forward. We don't know if it's going to be safer. You know, we hope it will be, of course. We hope that the average person in Iran is going to live in a better country with better representation, but it could go the other way. And I'm not going to weigh in on which way this goes. But for those who were hoping that this would be a massive failure and lead to chaos, right now, Americans don't agree. Now, how do I know that? I know that because they're not watching.
Exactly.
If Americans thought that this was a dystopian disaster
they would
in the making, and this was going to sink their portfolios and increase the price of oil and forever and ever more, then Americans would be watching this angry. That's not happening.
And that's what is so important. That's why I wanted to share with you guys. When you're hearing all this doomer stuff, the MAGA's imploding and the right's going crazy and all the oil prices are going to be at $300 a barrel and the world's going to be over. No, it's not. It's not. That's not how this story ends. I promise you guys. I will continue to predict this, right? I will continue to predict this. I predicted that the war was going to be over in 2 weeks. I did. I thought that with the numbers, they were going to run out. They were going to run out of ammunition, and they weren't going to be able to fight back, and they would have had to surrender. And I thought they were going to surrender over a week ago, and they haven't. What I believe is happening is I believe that They want to surrender. I don't think that Trump wanted to. I think Trump wanted to destroy them utterly. I think I'm not even sure now what that really would look like, but I think it's going to be some form of straight unconditional surrender. Some kind of, it's going to be in a capitulation that's going to be able to, for them to frame it in a way, but it'll essentially be unconditional surrender. That's basically what's going to be happening. Okay. So I was off by the time, but I don't believe I'm off with the outcome. I think the outcome of this war is going to be complete capitulation to the United States. It's going to give us everything we want and more. And I think that at the end of this conflict, we've done several things. Number one, we will have identified who our true friends are. And we're going to be able to navigate the next 2.5 years in this presidency accordingly. NATO has proven to be a complete and utter failure. And why I say this is, you know, I keep going through these cliches, but it's just is what it is. Trump said it in 2016 that NATO was obsolete, and he's right. It just is. NATO was created for Russian aggression. Well, what about Ukraine, Kyle? Ukraine's not in NATO. The only reason that Europe was supporting Ukraine was to stop Putin. It's a proxy war against Russia. But see, they don't want to get involved directly because they don't want those problems. They want that smoke. They don't want another world war. You got to understand, guys, Europe is not built for war. The Europe banked on a globalist system where they got to do whatever they wanted to do. They wanted to create a complete economic system that they could control, and they were going to always use American military power as their puppet, as their deterrent, while extracting resources from America. And they could do it because the American presidents that were getting elected was part of the globalist system. That's what it was about. So instead of all the money that those countries should have been paying into their own defense budgets, not just NATO's, but their own personal defense budgets, they got to spend on welfare states. They created their own countries into welfare states so that they would retain power, keep the people poor and dependent, keep a globalist system where they had the power, that they would use United States hegemony and military might to deter China and Russia. And if there was a conflict, they would have America do the heavy lifting or all the lifting without them having to risk anything. How do I know this? Because we saw it. Trump has been saying, I don't know if he's been saying it since 2016, but I definitely know that he said it recently at the United Nations Summit this year or this last year, whenever it was. And he said it. He said, I don't know if NATO would be there if we need him. I know we would, but I don't know if NATO would be there. I've said this before as an argument, and it's a strong argument, but I also believe I missed the other layer of that. What he was really saying is, I don't know if the world leaders would be there for me when I need them. I'd be there for them, but I don't know if they'll be there for me. And he got his answer. And the thing is, people will say, well, you know, he should have treated him better. He shouldn't have been, you know, so he shouldn't have been so mean, or he shouldn't, he should. That could be valid. Sure. But we're talking about politics here. We're not talking about schoolyard beef. We're talking about the management of nations. And Trump's loyalty is to the United States. It's not to Europe. If he has to bully people, make fun of them, he's going to do that if that's what it takes to get what he wants for the benefit of his people. That's what leaders do. That's number one. Number two, who cares? You're not going to do the best, what's in the best interest for your country and your ally because the person in charge is someone that you don't like. What are you, 7? That's not an excuse at all. People say, well, what about Iraq? I already looked up the numbers in Iraq. You can go to my other stream, my last stream, when I talked about that. Yeah, Europeans, they had some casualties. But if you add up all the casualties of Europe, I believe it's something like an eighth, maybe less, of what America's lives were spent. And remember, Iraq was retaliation for a terrorist attack on us. It was a defensive war. It wasn't an offensive war. And when we needed them for an offensive war, that directly affects Europe and its prosperity and its national security, it hems and haws, and then it can't respond. And then Germany goes as far as says, this isn't our war. Listen, this is the other thing I said. This is the other thing I make the argument of. It's not that NATO is denying Donald Trump. It's that NATO is denying the American people. It's not that NATO and Europe is not helping Donald Trump. It's that NATO and the European Union, or the Europeans, are not helping the American people. The president represents the United States of America, which are 50 states with 330 million people. He represents the interests and the will of those people, because the will of those people put him there to do that very job. So when Keir Starmer or Friedrich Merz say, oh, well, you can't use our bases, or it's not our war, respectively, they're not saying that to Donald Trump. They're saying that to you. They're saying that to me. They're saying that to your family. They're saying it to mine. But they expect our tax dollars to pay for their defense. They expect our soldiers and our military and our tax dollars to protect them. And we can't even use their bases to fuel our engines. It's absurd. So Trump is right. It's an obsolete alliance, and they don't respect him. They don't respect us, so then they can do it without us. If we're going to have to do things on our own, if that's what it's going to be, that's what it's going to be. Just don't come knocking on our door when stuff starts getting real. And I like putting things in perspective. That's why I do things like show how big things are so that we can kind of understand. Like Great Britain is the size of Oregon. We have roughly approximately 2.1 million people in our armed forces. They have about, I think, 157,000. They have virtually no Navy. They have more admirals than they have naval vessels. Isn't that nuts? They have more admirals than they have boats. That's crazy, man. This is what we're talking about here. This is how arrogant these people are. And I feel sorry, but at the same time I don't, because the people did it to themselves. Like, you put these people in charge. You allowed your country to be so what is the word? It's atrophied. You allowed the military to atrophy, your economy to atrophy, the welfare state to blow up, your immigration to blow up. Like, all of these things have stressed the system and have made your countries into what they are now with the leadership you have, and you can't even respond in real time to things. All they can do is issue strongly worded letters. No one cares. They've been spoiled for so long without paying the dues of America that when it's time to collect, they're caught with their pants down and they don't know what to do. They're like children. It's weird. It's weird to see. It's weird to watch. It exposes them, and I hope the people of the UK and France and all, I hope you guys wake up, man. You have allowed your leaders to atrophy your countries to the point where you cannot defend yourself. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. If you can't defend yourself, as far as a civilization goes, your civilization ceases to exist. And if I wasn't a Christian and I was a materialist, I would say, yeah, it's 100% true. Survival of the fittest, evolution. That's what happens. So I don't know, guys. I don't know if and to be honest with you, I don't know if Europe has the stomach. I don't know if they got the balls. I know Kier don't. Clearly Germany doesn't. I don't know. And it was weird because I was giving a lot of praise to Friedrich Merz because I really thought that at the Davos convention, like, he had a really good speech, and I thought he was kind of coming towards more of Trump's side, and I thought that he was starting to become more of an ally to Trump, and he kind of wanted to be more of he wanted Germany to kind of step up and be more of a leader in the EU, and I thought that was really good. And then he says some stupid thing like, "This isn't our war." It's just like, what are you talking about, man? Like, even if you believe that, why did you say that out loud? Why'd you say that publicly? Macron saying he'll help, then saying he's not, then saying he will, and then saying he's not. Like, it's just, it just shows the U.S., the American people, and it definitely shows Trump who he can and cannot trust. And if that's the case, why are we paying that? Why is that money going there? Unless you can definitively know and see that this money is actually a true deterrent and it's preventing Russia. But at the end of the day, it's like, I don't want to be rude, but like, so what? So what? Like, if the UK and Europe gets invaded by Russia, are we supposed to go to war for them? Is that what we're supposed to do? That's what NATO wants, right? Okay. But I guess my point is if they can't really help defend themselves, like, World War II is different because all the countries had armies and we were all pretty much even and we all pitched in together. It wasn't like 20% here, 80% here, 90% here, 10% here. It was pretty much even across the board, and we all put it in together. My point is now these countries can't even really protect themselves at all. It's really a joke. So we're supposed to sacrifice all of our resources and our people on behalf of countries that don't even support us now. That's what I'm saying is you're like, you have to sell the American people on that. It makes sense if you can give us some valid evidence as to how NATO is benefiting America. But if it's only benefiting other countries and it's not benefiting us, what is the point? Because that sounds like losing money on the low end and losing our American soldiers on the other end. Like that's the spectrum we're talking here. And I just don't see any upside at all to the situation. And that's why it either needs to be reformed or it needs to go. Like, that's my opinion. That's my opinion, 100%. All right, so let's get to the last part of the show and talk about Iran. So this is actually really good, but where's X? Right here. Here it is. So if you were on this channel, I promise you this. You're going to learn stuff because I'm going to play stuff. I'm going to interact with this. I'm going to interact with what's going on. We're going to do deep dives. I'm not going to be superficial with stuff. I'm not going to be like super reacty. I'm really going to go into stuff, and we're going to go listen to stuff. And so this last stream, we listened to pretty much the entire interview between Bill O'Reilly and Lindsey Graham, which was very informative because Lindsey knows pretty much everything that's going on with Iran, right? And a lot of the stuff, like I wanted to do that because he kind of condensed all the stuff that I had already I knew through other various outlets, but he kind of put it all into one cohesive monologue or interview. So, understanding like when Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner went to Geneva and spoke to Iran in the delegation the last time, and they told Witkoff and Jared that they had 430 grams of uranium that was enriched at 60%. You only need 20% enrichment for commercial uses. How we were going to give Iran, America, part of the deal. We were going to give them basically unlimited amount for commercial uses if that's what they wanted. There's no reason for them to have 60. They said that as a flex, basically, and saying because it only takes 2 weeks to go from 60 to 90. And I looked it up. Guys, on AI. I looked it up. I looked it up on ChatGPT. I looked it up. And the higher enrichment you have, the faster you can go higher. So it could take you, months or a year or something to get to 60%. But once you're at 60% to get to 90, it literally can take 2 weeks, 100%. That's not counting like obviously, building a bomb or something like that. But the fact is that once you have it, you can use it. And so that was a big, big deal. And Lindsey went on, through that. So if you're interested in that and you want to kind of catch up, go back to the last stream that I did, which was I think Monday, because I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm thinking about doing it every day, but I don't know if I can commit to that. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday right now, 5:30. And this was only supposed to be like an hour, but I realized I'm going to have to probably do 3 hours because there's just so much going on. But let's listen to this clip. And I'm bringing this up because like I like Piers Morgan. I think Piers is genuine in who he is, and I think I think a lot of people share Piers's view. And what I realized today, listening to this clip and listening to Piers' view, is what I realized is that even though someone like Piers is around in this stuff and hears these debates every day, I just realized like there's a certain level to where it's just hard for people to grasp things and just to put it all together. And that's how I know, guys, and it's not about tooting my own horn. It's just my realization that I just realized just how important my gift is, and I want to share that, and I want to help people, because even looking at it, if you look at his face right now, he's really thinking this through, and it's really hard for him to grasp this stuff.
With Iraq, of it. How does any of what he's done with Iran tick any of those boxes? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like he's done the complete opposite to what he campaigned on.
Well, you're asking a very legitimate question, but things change. So the threat level in Iran changed. And the information, and Graham spelled this out again in the podcast I did with him, was that, yes, the United States destroyed about 75% of the Iranian nuclear capacity last June, but they were weeks away from enriching uranium now so that they could make a nuclear weapon, a low-level one if they wanted, and hand it off. Trump got that intel. Then he got intel from Mossad, from Israel, that all the mullahs are going to be in one place at one time. This was after 6 weeks of negotiation where the Iranians basically said to the Americans, hey, blank you, gave us the middle finger. We're going to do what we want. We don't care what you say. Now, I talked to Donald Trump myself, one-on-one, private conversation on the phone, 1 week before the U.S. military action was launched. And that entire conversation was about making a deal. Trump did not want to do this. He didn't want to use military action. And we discussed various ways that a deal might happen. My emphasis was on Beijing, okay? Get them in a position where we'll help them in a way that they need, China, in return for they pressure the mullahs to give up their nuclear construction. That was my idea, okay? But then, in the final meeting in Geneva with Witkoff and the Iranian representatives, okay, Iran said, look, there's no sense in talking any further. We're not going to stop.
He's paraphrasing that, but what Witkoff said, this is what they said to Witkoff. They said, you are not going to get diplomatically what you can't get militarily. You can't get diplomatically what you aren't able to get militarily. That is what they said to him. After they said, we have 430 grams of 60% enriched uranium, and we're not going to give it up. That's how they opened up the talks. And he got up from the table and he left. And he told President Trump. And when they got the intel that the Ayatollah and everybody was together, they struck. Why? Because just like Bill said, it changed. Trump didn't say, I'm not going to start any new wars as long as homicidal, theocratic terrorists don't try to blow us up. Of course not, because why would he say that? Well, because it's pretty much assumed. If there is an imminent threat, or if there is a threat deemed enough to be credible, and the course of action, if you've exhausted all other avenues to try to de-escalate or get security for your people, here's something, and it doesn't work, by all means. But here's something I will say, guys, and this I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Bill Clinton could have killed Osama bin Laden. Could have took him out. And he did not. He chose not to. I'm not blaming Bill for 9/11. But I'm saying that choices have consequences. Okay? I think that's something that factored into Trump's decision making. If I don't do this now, they're not going to stop. And if I capitulate or kick this can down the road, and in 2 weeks or a month, they have a bomb, and they can deliver that to Israel or, God forbid, America, and there's attack, not a suicide bombing, guys. You know, those are horrific. They can kill many people and hurt and maim many more. But we're talking about taking out an entire city. And 430 grams is enough to build, I think, at least a dozen warheads or a dozen bombs. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine Hezbollah, Hamas, Iran, the Houthis having bombs, nuclear bombs? No. No, we can't. We can't, because we understand what that looks like. Circumstances changed. And it's either you do the right thing and you strike first, or you hem and haw and hand wring like a Keir Starmer, do nothing, and then now you're on the defense, and it's too late. So, and that's why I was saying earlier, you got to look at someone's character as far as what they do, not so much what they say, right? And so if Trump is someone who is a peace-loving person, just a person and a president who has done everything he can to bring peace, this is peace through military action. This is peace through strength. That's what this actually looks like. This isn't, I'm going to attack Iran because I don't like them and they said bad things to me. This is, I'm taking the worst people out possible who have already made threats to us and who is clearly don't want to negotiate, especially in good faith. Oh, sorry.
Now, when you say that to President Trump, what do you think's going to happen?
Facts.
He's not remembering what his campaign slogan was. Mm-hmm. He's saying these guys are serious. They're going to build a nuke, and I believe they'll use it. And I'm not taking the chance. And I got to, when the call came in, all of them are going to be in the same place.
Right.
We're going to go knock them out.
Right. Exactly.
I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, same here.
How about you?
Yes, 100%.
Well, I think again, there's an inconsistency, I would argue, between the rhetoric that followed the 12-day war last summer.
Listen to this very closely, guys, okay? Because I think a lot of people here would say the same thing that Piers is saying, and I want you to really pay attention to this.
Where everyone was assured we've neutralized the nuclear threat from Iran, and within 9-10 months, apparently it's all been rejuvenated. I find I just think. But some part of that, Bill, some part of that argument doesn't ring true. Either it wasn't true when they first said it, or it wasn't true in February.
Okay, so before Bill replies, I want everyone to understand the argument. Okay, the argument is very simple. Someone's lying. They either lied last year or they're lying now. Okay? You told us that you hit their sites and you took away their ability to make these bombs. So either you didn't do it when you said you did it, or you did it and you lied about why you're going in now. That's the argument. Okay? This is the response.
They can't both be true.
If you can show me a quote where they said all of Iranians' nuclear weapon capacity has been destroyed, I will see the point. I can't find that.
This is why it matters to listen. Because what we do is we listen, but we don't hear. Okay? We listen to someone say something, but then we kind of paraphrase it in our heads, and then we believe that that's what they said, but that's not what they said. Sorry, guys. You're on, it's on me, not on them. Why is that important? It's important because they never said that we totally destroyed their capability to make a bomb. We set them back. Right? We set them back with their facilities. But we didn't take it all out. And they still had facilities.
Quote.
Not all, but they made it. They made it clear. In a bit. See, let me hypothesize.
They made it clear that they badly.
See, as soon as that's the frustrating thing about Pierce. I don't like as soon as someone makes a very good point, a counter argument against what he says, he wants to try to change the subject, right? And Pierce even admitted, well, they didn't say all. That's the point. You jumped to a conclusion that said, oh, someone's lying because they told us that they destroyed it all. Well, where's the quote that they said that? Oh, there is no quote. Okay, so then you made it up. Yeah, you just made it up. Right? And Pierce has been doing this more and more, and it's really irritating.
Badly harmed Iran's ability to do it.
That's true.
But there were other labs working on the same thing that were not destroyed.
But let me offer you a different.
Okay. That is the point. That's the point. They basically came to us and said, I'm clicking all over the place. They basically came to us and said, you didn't get us. Nah, 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 nah. We still got it. Nah, 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 nah. Go F yourself. We're still going to do it. That's why we're here. That's why.
This is the feel-good story of the week.
Here.
And
I'm gonna play.
Americans are stretched thin with.
So I'm gonna play this. This is the memo. We're just gonna play the first part of this because the memo is really the update on Iran. And I'm playing O'Reilly's because he has probably the most up-to-date information right now. That's accurate. And I just want to kind of get I want to get kind of like a bookmark on where we're at. And I think that this is why I wanted to play this first part. And then we'll end the stream, and I will see you Friday.
Would like to make a deal with Iran. When I say the words with certainty,
we go back.
Hey, Bill O'Reilly here. Welcome to the No Spin News for Tuesday, March 24th, 2026. Stand up for your country. We can report with certainty that the Trump administration would like to make a deal with Iran. When I say the words with certainty, you can take that to the bank. Now, it's a very practical story. So, the United States has degraded Iran as an aggressive military threat. It's not 100% complete, but it's very, very serious. And that country is going to take years to rebuild its arsenal. The only outstanding situation is the uranium, which has got to be the headline of any deal. Okay? And the Trump administration understands now that the Persian people aren't going to rise up right away, at least, and overthrow the regime. So that's not going to happen unless U.S. ground forces would go into Iran, and the American people will not support that, as everybody knows.
So Bill is saying something that I don't know. I think that the administration calculated, but they didn't bank on, meaning that they knew it was a possibility, but they were fully prepared for if that wasn't the possibility because their objectives isn't to really overthrow the government and liberate the people. That's not what this objective was. The objectives were very militarily strategic. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. destroy their navy, so they can't lock down the Hormuz, destroy their entire army and their missile supplies and their drone supplies so that they can't come back. That is the point here. And when we're done with that, we're out. Regime change, cherry on top. If we can get him switched, if we can do that. But Bill also made a very good point on the Piers Morgan show today or yesterday, whatever it was. I think it was today. And the point was like, you know, the people in Germany didn't rise up against Hitler, right? The German people didn't rise up against them because they knew that the SS would gun them down, and they would, right? And so you can't really expect the people in Iran to stand up to the IRGC when they're unarmed. This is why the founders of America gave us the Second Amendment. Because this government serves the people. And they knew the human nature. They knew the nature of humans to get power and want more power. And so in order to check that, because this whole system is about checks of power. That's why you have the branches of government, and then they're set up the way they are, to check the powers. And ultimately, you have the armed populace to check the government, right? The government is small. Doesn't matter. There's 2 million military, but there's 330 million people. And half those people are armed, right? And so... but the IRGC is the ones with all the guns, and the people in Iran, they don't have anything. And so you can't really blame them for not rising up. Now, the fallout of that will be kind of significant, I think, for the Iranian people if there's a deal to be made and the regime stays in place, and they don't. You know? But ultimately that's not our concern. Our concern is America first, our interests first, and not the outcome of, you know, a revolution taking place in Iran.
So you've got to be realistic in these things.
Exactly.
And we are going to provide some clarity in the talking points memo.
Okay.
So the president of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif, has offered to hold peace talks in Islamabad between the United States, and I would assume Israel would be in on those talks to some extent, all right, but not a major player, and the government of Iran. The Guardian, that's a newspaper that is not reliable,
super liberal,
reports that Vice President Vance would be the chief negotiator, not Steve Witkoff or Jared Kushner, who had been doing the negotiation.
It's smart. It's smart to send Vance. He's the second in command. It shows respect. It's the highest, other than the president. President's definitely not going to go. So it shows a lot of respect. It also puts different face and a different personality. And let's be honest, Vance never wanted this war. He never wanted this conflict. He never wanted to be here. So he's going to do whatever it takes. He has an incentive to get it closed and get it done. And also, there is what can I say this without sounding rude? There is a suspicion or a lack of credibility, I think, when it comes to Kushner and Witkoff, because they're special envoys. And so I think maybe people have a harder time maybe believing, the general public believing what they say, whereas, Vance is loved and respected by on both sides of the aisle, I believe. And so, if he comes back and he says X, Y, and Z, then it's definitely, I don't want to say it's more believable, but it's definitely going to be received better.
Before the military action. Again, the Guardian is not reliable. So I can't give you anything other than that's what this newspaper says. The government of Iran predictably says, oh, no, we don't want to talk. Yeah, okay. That's like, they don't want to lose face.
Yeah, exactly.
In the Arab world, in the Muslim world, and with their own people, but they'll show up if there are talks scheduled. Now, Reuters reports the talks may begin this weekend. Reuters is so-so.
Interesting.
Okay. I'm just giving you what we have. I can't say with certainty that any of this is going to happen. I can just tell you that the Trump administration would like it to happen. Okay. About 2,200 Marines are either in or on their way to the Persian Gulf. We don't know why. And the Pentagon's not going to tell anybody why.
Right, I was going to say, no one's going to know.
Why we should do that.
Yeah, no one's going to know what they're doing.
We have ground forces available if certain missions, not occupation.
I'll say this. I will say this. And listen, I'm not a prophet, so don't, just don't. But I'm hoping that we don't have a repeat of the nuclear weapon talks, right? Everyone comes to the table and they learn their lesson, or maybe they don't, and they say the wrong thing. And because here's the thing, I believe this, okay? They did Midnight Hammer. And I did a short on this, and I said this in my last stream, was like, how many times does Trump have to do? How many times does Trump have to display that he follows through with what he says until people start getting it? Right? He did Midnight Hammer. They didn't get it. They all but spit in his face. And then we do Epic Fury, and they continue to just spit in the guy's face. And now they're about to sit down with him. And I'm telling you right now, that tune better change. Because if you spit in this man's face again for the third time, it will be the final time, and there will be no more talking. And you're all going to die. He will wipe the IRGC off, and it won't matter. He has up to 60 days, 90 days with an extension. He will eliminate them all. I personally think he should do it anyway. But if they pull another Geneva, there will not be another talk. And I guarantee you, this is a take it or leave it situation. This is going to be a take it or leave it conversation. There is not going to be any capitulation. There's not going to be any real negotiation. It's going to be, we're going to give you terms and you're going to accept them, or we're just going to bomb you until you're all dead. That's what this situation is right now. And I think that's what the other side of the table, that's Iran, is trying to kind of not calculate, but they're really trying to probably rein everything in and try to get everything under control, because they know once they get to the meeting, they only have the one shot. Like, they can posture all they want online. They're terrified. They're absolutely terrified. And the thing is once you know the course that you have to go down, and now you know for certain there is no other route, I'm telling you guys, that's a scary place to be with the United States military. Because now the gloves come off. So.
But missions need to be done. But the Defense Department, Department of War, whatever they are, they're not going to say, hey, this is where the Marines are, this is what we're going to do. Come on. But the reporters keep asking.
Of course, that's your job.
Okay. A Pentagon official says that due to security situations, we can't answer any questions. That's legitimate. Usually the government dodges and it doesn't want to answer questions. Here, in a battlefront situation, that's legitimate. In Ukraine, Zelensky says he has irrefutable proof that Russia is providing intelligence to Iran.
Well, duh.
That is likely
an
accurate situation.
Of course.
Putin is the master of evil. It's why he's on the cover confronting evil right next to the Ayatollah Khomeini. All right? So I'm sure that Russia's doing
Mao,
bad
Hitler,
things, try to make it
Putin,
more difficult for the United
Khomeini.
States.
Interesting.
So I believe that report. The United Nations UNICEF, which is the children's arm of it, says that 324 children have been killed so far in a conflict, 206 in Iran, 118 in Lebanon, 4 in Israel, 1 in Kuwait. Now, the Lebanon's thing is interesting because Lebanon got involved at the behest of Iran, and it's Hezbollah. It's not the government of Lebanon. It's the terror group Hezbollah. It's the same thing with Hamas. So they start firing rockets at Israel, civilians. Well, what do you think Israel's going to do?
Right.
So they fire rockets back.
Yep.
Now, I'm not justifying anything. I'm just telling you that perspective is needed in covering the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the kids are caught in the middle, just like Hamas. Civilians were caught in Gaza because Hamas hid behind them. We all understand. I hope so. So, how did the UN get those numbers? It's impossible to get them. So they took them from the various governments, which then you say, okay, you got to be skeptical. But be that as it may, children, women, civilians, everybody's suffering.
Yeah.
World would be a lot better place if we didn't have any of this, right?
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Yeah, facts.
So summing up, I think that over the weekend, this weekend coming, stuff is going to happen. And I'm hoping good stuff for the country's sake. Mm-hmm. Could be wrong, and that's the memo.
Okay. So where does that put us, guys? That puts us, let me go back to me. That puts us, sorry. That puts us in a place of strength. That's really what it comes down to. It puts us in the best place possible where we could be right now. And I didn't play it, but Trump was doing the ceremony for swearing in what's his name? Mike? Is it Mike Mullen? As the new head of DHS here in America, and he was taking questions, and there's a lot of things that we just don't know right now. But I will say, personally, watching Trump for a long time, I believe that we're in a very good position. And he said it like, why would we make a deal, or why would we capitulate when we're winning, when we hold all the cards? He's a master negotiator. He words his things very carefully. He puts out what he wants to put out because he knows what he's doing when it comes to these kinds of things. I think in the short term right now, really, America, as far as the military conflict, there is just there's no other spin. Like we've destroyed their entire navy and military capacity within 3 weeks. That's just a fact. Now it's not a matter of military things. It's a matter of I also don't want to say that. I don't want to say that because that could be true, and I don't want to put that out there. I'll say that it could be a good faith effort. It could also be a strategy. Okay. That's all I'm going to say on that. But listen, I am humbled that you decided to click on this live stream, spend your time with me, allow me to speak my mind, allow me to give you guys, maybe some information that you knew, maybe some information you didn't, maybe another way to look at things, maybe some different things to think about. It really means a lot that I'm able to build this and to do this, and I'm looking forward to continuing these. And we're we're living in some really monumental historical times. I don't, and I'm so glad to be doing this now because it feels like I'm obligated to document what's going on because this is just an incredible time, and it could be very easy to be discouraged and be upset and be sad and angry and devastated and look at gas and think this is the end and all this other crazy stuff. And you just don't know really what to do or what to think. And so I hope that I'm able to help bring clarity while also being able to give you some kind of entertainment. And I do. I think I'm really starting to take this serious, and I really think that this is something that I really would want to do long term. So I'm live streaming Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays right now, 5:30 to 8:30. Possibly we'll start doing a little more depending on how I can do this. But for right now, that's where I'm at. Politics. I'm a gamer. The person in the chat mentioned Discord. I'm going to get that, I think, up and running so people can talk and we can kind of build that up. I'll figure that out too. I use Discord for other things. I just never thought about making my own thing, but now I have. So I appreciate you for putting that in the chat. Thank you, everyone on X, for joining. Thank you, everyone on YouTube. Thank you, everyone on Twitch. Follow me on all three, True to Logic. And I will see you guys Friday. God bless.